This lesson is a study of Isaiah chapters 34 and 35. 34 is about the coming cleansing, both in heaven and in earth, and 35 is a short, beautiful little chapter about how the earth will be and animals and humans will be during the millennium at the seventh trump. Chapter 34, verse 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth for it. In other words, God is saying all people all over the earth, and that nations can be translated ethnos. It means people, for everyone to hear. God is the Father of all, and He loves all His children, even when we do wrong individually. 2. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, or ethnos, and His fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. He is going to correct the entire world in preparation for the millennium teaching. Now, his anger is only at those who are evil. He will destroy Satan's little kingdom, and we will be rid of any who have not been corrected during the millennium. 3. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountain shall be melted with their blood. Now that sounds gross, but what it is about is the body change. During the millennium, when Jesus' foot touches Zion at the seventh trump, all flesh will be gone, and we will be translated, if we are alive at that time, into glorified bodies. 4. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. Now, that is symbology. It refers to the shaking out. It's talked about in Revelation 6, 12 and 13. And that is when Michael lets Satan out, and the stars, those angels in Revelation, will be pushed out of heaven. Heaven will be cleaned at that time. 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Idumea means red. It is Edom, and these are the offspring of Esau. And if you take that word back to the Hebrew, I refer you to Ezekiel 37. It is Rus, Rosh, today's Russia. Remember that Esau was banished to the land above the fertility. Most of Russia lies way to the north. And this is not about Russian Christians. There are offspring, even from Cain, who have come to be believers and who have come to be followers of Christ. 6. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Edomia. Now, that word Bozrah, that's a fortress in Egypt. And this is about the final battle. Hamon-Gog, it's the last one. There's Armageddon. And when we get to Hamon-Gog, God's army will take over. And as we learn in Revelation, great hailstones, huge hailstones will fall upon the advancing enemy. 7. And the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and thou dost made fat with fatness. The unicorn there should be translated as a wild ox, and the animals and the people will be changed, and the God's army will be moving. And I would refer you to the story of Elisha when he was standing out with his armor bearer and an army was advancing toward them. And God allowed their eyes opened, and they could see that God had an army invisible to the enemy that would fight with Elisha and the armor bearer, and they prevailed because they had the help of God. 8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Zion, of course, is Jerusalem. And this day of vengeance is the cleaning out of evil. And God is not angry with anyone who has bothered to learn, has been a follower, who has done service in the kingdom, and is not evil, is not a Satan follower. The cleaning will be cleaning out evil. And those who can be corrected will be allowed to stay. And those who can't will be banished during the millennium, not done away with. They aren't going to suffer being smoked up yet. 10. 9. Rather, and the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. I want to point out to you that that word pitch, it is not, it is means a mirage, would turn to pitch. And this is talking about the burning pitch. That is the lake of fire that will come to be. And in that time, Satan's little 5-month government will be gone. 10. It shall not be quenched, night nor day, the smoke thereof shall go up forever. From generation to generation it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. And that is at the very end. And the Hebraism there is nothingness. And it simply means that Satan, his angels who have already been sentenced to the lake of fire, and all those others at the end of the millennium, and the lake of fire. God is a consuming fire, and they will be turned smoked up from the inside and forever away from God. And all the unclean will be gone. (11) But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it, the owl also and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. I want to point out that emptiness is tuhu and it means empty and void, and that's the same word used in the first chapter of Genesis when it said, properly translated, that God made the earth null and void, and they will be gone. 13, and thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be a habitation of dragons and a court for the owls. And those, of course, are unclean. A cormorant is a pelican, and the owl there. 14, the wild beast of the desert shall also meet with the wild beast of the island, and the satyr, and that's a vampire, shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest. That vampire, I just want to point out that there is a teaching that Adam had a first wife whose name was Lilith, and Lilith is a pagan goddess, and in some quarters that is taught, and I bring that up because of that word, satyr. That was a thing of idol worship associated with that, and it's why I bring that up. But that it is seriously taught by some. 15, there shall the great owl make her nest, and lay and hatch, and gather under her shadow, and there shall the vultures also be gathered, every one with her mate. And that is talking about all of the bad will be gone at that time, because we will be in spiritual bodies and not physical bodies. 16. This is good fair warning here in this verse for all of us. Seek ye out the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate, for my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit hath gathered them. Seek out and learn and know and be warned that a cleansing is coming. And 17, to finish this chapter. And he hath cast the lot for them, and his hand divideth it unto them by line. They shall possess forever. From generation to generation shall they dwell therein. And this is the from age to age, and never again will there be a cleaning. And the government, the world government, will be gone, and it won't exist. Chapter 35 is a very beautiful chapter about the earth and how it will be after this cleansing. And when God's Son sets foot on Mount Zion and God establishes his temple. And this could be called our Father's kingdom. And the last chapter that we just studied lets us know that there are those who love and obey and who have read and learned and know, and they will not be subject to that vengeance and that cleansing. 1. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. Now we know that the desert does bloom out and has some beautiful flowers, but for a very, very short season of the year. But never, ever, ever are we going to find a rose in the desert unless it's in a pot on a shaded porch and is well watered. This is saying that the earth is going to be restored as it was before the catabole. The desert will no longer be an arid, dry, useless place. It will be blossoming. 2. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it, and the excellency of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our God. And of course, when we think of Lebanon, we think of the people called the Cedars of Lebanon, the people of God. And Carmel and Sharon are places of paradise, and these are places that are nearby to Jerusalem. Romans 8, I want to point out, if you go there, I'm not giving you verse, but if you go to Romans 8, Paul will tell you that the very creation is groaning for the return of the Lord, that nature itself longs for the return of the beautiful earth that was before the catabole. And our present day earth, as you know, does not sit straight on its axis. It is several degrees off at the North Pole, and that is why we have polar caps. It is why we have winds and storms, and why we have heat at the equator and ice at the poles. At this time, that correction, the earth will be set straight, and we will read about it here in this chapter 3. Oh, I wanted to point out that the desert will bloom, that archaeological digs in New Mexico have found petrified palm trees, so we know that at one point that it wasn't desert, it was capable of growing beautiful palms. 3. Strengthen ye the weak hands and confirm the feeble knees. Everybody will be comforted with this news, and the knees won't be weak and the hands won't be. They'll all be comforted and made strong. 4. Say to them that are of fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance. Even God with a recompense, he will come and save you. There is nothing to fear if we have been on God's side, and we are to look forward to this blessing and comfort, and only be fearful if we feel as though we could be part of that vengeance and have time to get ourselves in correct order. 6. Then shall the lame man leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and the streams in the desert. And that is simply saying that the people who have been handicapped and unable to walk and blind and deaf, their ears will be opened. And in verse 5, the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped. And then 6, the lame. This is simply saying that all the handicaps will be gone, and we will be in a perfect body. Many scholars think that based on stories in the Bible about angels, that they are usually presented as adults but young, and they conjecture that possibly everyone would be about 30 years old and in perfect form. 7. And the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of dragons, where each lay, shall be grass with seeds and rush. And this is to say that word parched ground, it actually should be translated as a mirage. Like if you were in the desert, you would see what looked like water, but it isn't real, it's a mirage. And even on a highway in the hot summer, you can look out ahead and a mirage will look like a pool of water, but it isn't. But in the good times, it won't be a mirage, it will be for real. And that dragon there, the enemy, will be gone. 8. And a highway shall be there, and a way, and it shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but shall be for those the wayfaring men, though fools shall not err therein. Now that is the way, and there will be no one evil who can walk there. And that word fools, let's translate that more like simple-minded. Let's say that if I had come through life with a low IQ and very limited understanding, that will not be true of me in the millennium, because they shall not err. They will know and can be corrected and can understand. 9. No lion shall be there, nor any ravenous beast shall go up thereon. It shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And that's the elect. And the lion, think back to chapter 11 of Isaiah, when we were told the lion would lie down with the lamb, and the child could play on the hole of an adder and not be bitten. That is because all life is in a glorified body. There is no flesh. The lion won't be a carnivore. There's no flesh to eat. 10. And the redeemed, again the elect of the Lord, shall return and come to Zion with songs and everlasting joy upon their heads, and they shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. And this will be all corrected and evil done away with. And God is promising the perfection of a perfect body, a perfect mind, and a perfect place. This ends chapter 35. The next lesson will take up chapter 36, and it will be discussing Sennacherib's agent, who is Rabshakeh, when he moved against King Hezekiah. And throughout the Bible, we have types. We have Christ types, we have satanic types, and the king of Assyria, Sennacherib, is a type for another famous Assyrian, Satan himself. That's one of his names. Thank you, and this lesson has been an outreach of the United Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri.